What is the most unusual Bible verse? I don't know if it's the most unusual, but I always like the fact that Numbers 12:3, written by Moses, says now Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. I also love how John referred to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved and also specifically mentions that he was faster than Peter and beat him to the empty tomb, John 20:3-4. It's great to think about how a little bit of pettiness, or maybe good-natured ball-busting, between two people has been preserved over 2,000 years. If two men are fighting and the wife of one of them comes to rescue her husband from his assailant, and she reaches out and seizes him by his private parts, 12 you shall cut off her hand. Show her no pity, Deuteronomy 25:11-12. Are oddly specific. I hate when that happens. Genesis 27:11 is my favorite. My brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a smooth man. Mother lover, I had to search it up to see if it was actually written with the smooth. It depends on your translation. I use the Barry White International Version. I have always been partial to Jeremiah 10:5. Like a scarecrow in a cucumber field, their idols cannot speak, they must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them, they can do no harm nor can they do any good. I love the comparison to scarecrows in a field, but specifically a cucumber field. How random. Edit, thanks for the upvotes. Yes, I know this translation is debatable, as is often the case with rare words in the Bible. It has been a few years, but I studied Biblical Hebrew in college. The phrase in question is, Tomer Mikdash. The second word is translated as cucumber field in the Brown Driver Briggs, which is the authoritative lexicon for biblical scholars. The same term is used in Isaiah 1:8 and Baruch 6:70. The first word is translated here as scarecrow but is sometimes translated as palm tree or post like in Judah 4:5. The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines. Hey man, foreskin rugs are hard to semen by, nothing ties the room together quite like one, though. She lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys and whose emission was like that of horses. Ezekiel 23:20 NIV, from a passage where God is symbolically criticizing Israel by metaphorically describing the nation as a hussy explicitly, in order to make them feel ashamed. If Israel had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. He turned around, looked at them and called down a curse on them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. Don't forget the reason. It's because the boys made fun of him for being bald. It's because the mob of young men numbering in the hundreds had left their jobs and walked miles out of town to threaten to kill him and mock him for mourning the death of his mentor. That's what bald means in the context. There's no evidence Elisha was bald, after having seen him perform miracles, thus they were defying God openly and God vindicated his prophet. The fact that 2 bears mauled 42 people strongly implies they didn't run but were so bloodthirsty that they tried to fight the bear. Ehud then approached him while he was sitting alone in the upper room of his palace and said, I have a message from God for you. As the king rose from his seat, Ehud reached with his left hand, drew the sword from his right thigh and plunged it into the king's belly. 22 Even the handle sank in after the blade, and his bowels discharged. Ehud did not pull the sword out, and the fat closed in over it. Judges 3:20. The best part comes in the verses 24 and 25, where his servants thought because his door was closed that he was having a poo and thus didn't go check on him. Which he kinda was. I mean, his bowels did empty. Judges 15:16. And he found a new jawbone of an butt, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. Dude. Samson was a freaking beast. There should definitely be a movie made about him. There was a theatric Bible series on Netflix or some other streaming platform I saw a while back. The Samson episode was pretty good. Ecclesiastes 10:19. A feast is made for laughter, wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. In the NIV translation, it says but money is the answer to everything, implying that while food and drink are fun, you gotta get out and work for that dollar bill. So God is essentially the Wu-Tang Clan. My fave is the very end of Jonah. Jonah is in the desert but found a tiny tree with a gourd to give him shade. After a bit, the gourd shriveled and dies, and Jonah must suffer in the sun again. Jonah cusses out the gourd. Right then God came down to Jonah and chastised him. Good, Jonah, that gourd existed by no labor of your own. No one whose testicles are crushed or whose male organ is cut off shall enter the assembly of the Lord. Deuteronomy 23:1. The assembly refers to the holy tabernacle. No person or animal maimed or unwhole was allowed to enter. So what happens if you were handicapped? Is that why there's pictures of people with injured eyes or limbs left outside the chapel? Because I always assumed it was because they had nowhere left to go. He said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff, because I'm exhausted." Genesis 25:30. Something about the way this is worded makes it seem strange. Or stew. Interpretation from one language to another is fun, especially from the extremely descriptive language of Biblical Hebrew. If a man beats his male or female slave with a rod and the slave dies as a direct result, he must be punished, but he is not to be punished if the slave gets up after a day or two, since the slave is his property. Exodus 21:20-21. Pretty advanced if you ask me. In the South you just killed them and didn't get punished. Ezekiel 16:26. You engaged in prostitution with the Egyptians, your neighbors with large genitals, and aroused my anger with your increasing promiscuity. The story this verse is a part of fits well with the whole biblical narrative, but why that extra detail about the Egyptians? Because they have long schlongs, bro. My personal favorite is Song of Solomon 5:4. Web translation is "My beloved thrust his hand in through the latch opening. My heart pounded for him." Which already sounds kinky AF. But I particularly like how the KJV describes this butterflies in the stomach feeling. "My beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him." I just now at 24 years of age realized those are innuendos. I was so sheltered from sex when I was Christian I never recognized it. Wow. Many verses, but I love them. Leviticus 15:19. When a woman has her regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. 20. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean, and anything she sits on will be unclean. 21. Whoever touches her bed must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean till evening. 24. If a man lies with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days. Any bed he lies on will be unclean. And on until 29. On the 8th day she must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. 30. The priest is to sacrifice one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement for her before the Lord for the uncleanness of her discharge. Edit. And those crying about childbirth and missing verses, calm down. The post was asking for crazy Bible verses, and 29 and 30 fit on their own merit. Song of Songs 4:5. Your breasts are like 2 fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that browse among the lilies. Solomon was one horny dude. He had 1,000 wives, and about 400 of those were inherited from his father. Imagine inheriting your mom as a wife. Jeremiah chapter 13:13. This is what the Lord said to me, "Go and buy yourself a linen undergarment and put it on, but do not put it in water." 2. So I bought underwear as the Lord instructed me and put it on. 3. Then the word of the Lord came to me a second time. 4. Take the underwear that you bought and are wearing, and go at once to the Euphrates Sea, and hide it in a rocky crevice. 5. So I went and hid it by the Euphrates, as the Lord commanded me. 6. A long time later the Lord said to me, "Go at once to the Euphrates and get the underwear that I commanded you to hide there." 7. So I went to the Euphrates and dug up the underwear and got it from the place where I had hidden it, but it was ruined, of no use at all. 8. Then the word of the Lord came to me. 9. This is what the Lord says, "Just like this I will ruin the great pride of both Judah and Jerusalem." TLDR. God had a man bury underwear and then retrieve it after a long time to prove a point. Proverbs 25:16. If you find honey, eat just enough, too much of it, and you will vomit. Like, sure, it's practical advice, but one Sunday it was the verse of the day for our Sunday school lesson. Given all the verses available in the Bible, it seemed like a strange choice. All things in moderation, it's good advice.